Hello everybody, just having a little bit of a live stream here because today is the 1-year anniversary of my first upload to this channel. So I figured I'd just take about 45 minutes to an hour, hang out and say hi to some folks and just chat. Don't really have any theme in mind, but I figured we'd just hang out and have some coffee. So yes, I uploaded my first video on June 8th, 1 year ago. And I forgot to check just how many I have up today or any of my analytics. So I'll go ahead and see what we have. So my basic search in the YouTube search bar shows that I have 608 subscribers and 248 videos, which is far more than I ever would have thought I would have ended up having at any point along the last year's journey, let alone when I started. I told myself not to even expect to have 10 subscribers in my first year because it's very easy just to end up in the bottom of a hole and having no one hear about you. So the fact that I have as many as I do, and the fact that it's gotten me invested enough to make as many videos as I have is absolutely amazing to me. And I have 63 videos on my to-do list. I've been extremely busy lately with a lot of personal life stuff. And I've just had my video to-do list building up ahead of me. So I'm really just going to have to start doing 3 a days or something to not end up in the bottom of a pit that I'll never end up making all the videos I want to make. And some of those are recurring videos. So some of those video titles in that list of 63 are recurring series videos, like the book readings and stuff like that. So I'm horribly behind. My watch time in minutes sits at 113,759, which is considerably more than what I reported in my last video talking about that. In the 4,000 watch hours that are required for monetization, that's 240,000 minutes. So 120,000 minutes is halfway, and I'm nearly there, which is mind-boggling to me. That's usually the hard part, and I would have expected myself to be half as far along there, so a quarter of the way, not nearly halfway. So that is amazing to me, and I want to thank you guys for always participating. Either I picked a very sleepy time of day for all you guys, or my notification hasn't gone out. Because I'm not used to having 4 minutes where no one shows up, but that's just fine. I'll just hop onto another account and see if there is a notification out. Well, if anybody hops in after the fact and watches, love to hear what you guys are up to this weekend. Oh, we got Uncle Al in the room. Love to hear what everybody's up to this weekend, what you got going on, what kind of prepping you're doing, what's going on in your life lately. I got a lot going on in my life lately, and more than happy to chat about it. People come around. But I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys have going on, what you'd like to hear about from a prepping channel. what you'd like to hear from me. I definitely am always up for suggestions, and my video to-do list is always reshuffling itself based on recommendations and stuff. Uncle Al doesn't feel good. Sorry about that, Uncle Al. Hope you start feeling better. You did an iron fist movement. That sounds like it has quite a bit of exertion involved. Yep, I see the notification on my other account. Well, you got to be careful there, Uncle Al. Don't overexert yourself or pull anything. What do you got going on this weekend, Uncle Al? Just resting up then? Trying to recover? Total body shock. Oh, well, you better take it easy and relax. Bobby. Could be total Bobby shock. Never know. Gotta be careful of that. Oop. Little echo. Gotta give myself a like on my phone. Yep, well, you rest up and feel better. Drink some aloe vera juice. Lots of water. Wow, yeah. Well, probably don't do that for a while then. Got to rest up and regain your energy. Well, Uncle Al, what do you think people need to hear about more lately? I'm going to keep going with the EMP tabletop exercise thought experiment that Steve, of course, our trainer, started. I'm actually planning on really digging into that, looking and just sort of reviewing EMPs with everybody and, maybe stretching it out a little bit because I think it's a really good exercise. And I think it's going to get people thinking. Water. Uncle Al thinks we need more water talk, and I agree. That's always one of the most neglected preps that people have or don't have is lack of water. Most people have about enough water for 2 days, and that's preppers. A lot of preppers think that they have a lot of water, but you could go through 55 gallons in 2 days if you weren't careful, and I kid you not. So, one drum is not enough if you're a prepper. That will last you a while if you ration it very well, but you will not be happy during that time, and then you'll be out of water. So I think that it's important to have a lot of water on hand and have a feasible idea for how you're going to gather water. And I'm talking tabletop exercise, drill, go get your water, carry it from where you plan on carrying it or whatever. Hey there, Backwoods. How you doing? Uncle Al shattered a cinder block. That's pretty impressive. Apparently. I hope he videotaped it. That would be pretty awesome. So, yeah, I think that we should talk about water more. I think maybe that should be the tabletop exercise after EMP or during EMP or something, is run a drill about where you're going to get your water and if it's going to be enough. Try to maybe live off of your water gathering ability as much as you can for a few days or something like that. My area is extremely abundant in water, but I actually don't have a source of water readily within walking distance that I could just walk to and gather enough water for a day on a daily basis without it being a pretty sizable chore. And that's with pretty much infinite amounts of water around me. I've shown you plenty of videos where we've watched rivers flow by and it's enough water to feed everybody in my area in just one of them, if you were to ration it. So the amount of water is not the problem, but you really need to have an accurate understanding of how many hours a day are going to be committed to bringing enough water to your house to have it processed and purified. Hey, morning, how you doing? Exactly, backwoods. Yeah, it is the number one issue for most preppers because it's just overwhelmingly one of the most difficult things to store in the abundance that you need. You could have a 10,000 gallon tank and you would go through it surprisingly quickly, especially if you let yourself feel comfortable with your 10,000 gallon tank. So yeah, I mean, that would be a really good start. But I've noticed that a lot of preppers fall back on well, I don't have a lot of water, but I have the ability to gather water. And they're never very clear about what that ability is. Now, if you can show me the little streamlet that flows through your property and you can guarantee that it doesn't dry up seasonally or won't after 2 years of drought, then that's great. But I know for a fact that if there is no water supply to me, I'm not going to be able to dig a still in the ground or something like that, a solar still, to gather condensation enough to feed my family, wash our dishes, bathe on a day-to-day basis. And somebody's going to need to be pulling a cart of water from one of the nearby sources of water on a maybe bi-daily basis, twice a day. And that isn't even getting into what Backwoods Lot was saying is cleaning and sanitizing it. Now, you just don't know what's in water. So when I am drinking water from a stream or a lake or anything, especially after grid down, when cars might have driven into it and no one would know, I'm going to be purifying it in every single way that I can. And that is, I mean, if you can think of a method, I would like to have that in line in my cleaning and sanitizing process. And a lot of prepper discussion about water does not go into enough depth about getting your water clean enough. Pouring water through some charcoal that's in a coffee filter, it does nothing. A lot of that water doesn't actually make contact with the charcoal. And I've seen this as, hey, living the dream, how you doing? Just having a little chat here. Today's the anniversary of me uploading my first video a year ago. So I figured we'd just have a little coffee chat with everybody and hang out. But Uncle Al got us on the subject of water. So right now we're talking about how most preppers don't have enough water and how they rely on the idea that they'll simply all of a sudden be able to gather enough water every day to fulfill their needs and clean and sanitize it. Thanks, bud. Yeah, it's super exciting. I never expected to be doing this, have this grow to this level. I always just sort of figured I'd be making a video here and there. And I mean, I made a video like once a month or once every 2 months when I first started. And now I'm doing a lot more than that. So it's just amazing to have it grow this much. Yeah, I bet you do. Living off grid, water concerns are one of the main things. Ooh, Bug Out Bubba's in. Hey, you did finally catch one. Yeah, I haven't started doing the scheduling up ahead, Bubba, but I'm glad you made it here. Yeah, Jeremy. It's I've lived off grid, and water is one of the main things. I was just transporting 120 gallons a day, not every day, but I was just using blue drums in the back of my truck, and I was just filling them up down at the fairgrounds in town. But even then, that was a considerable chore. I couldn't go home from work on a lot of days, even if I wanted to, without going down to the fairgrounds and filling my water barrels up. And that sounds sort of silly because that was one of my smallest chores living off the grid. But imagine if I had had to find a way to wheel that on a dolly to my house from 3 miles away. And that wasn't how far. I was 10 miles away and up gravel roads. So I don't think a lot of people think about getting 40 gallons a day to their house from 10 miles away up gravel roads. And that's what a lot of preppers are going to end up finding themselves doing every single day in grid down. So really have to think about your water preps, you really need to think about how you're going to use them when it pops off, because you really want to use them on those days where you cannot go and gather water. You don't want to lean on your water supplies until they run out and then start gathering. So yes, Uncle Al, and I think everybody agrees who said something so far, but Uncle Al was the one who pointed out that we should talk about water more, because we like to talk about gaps in our preps, and that's one of the biggest ones. Thank you, Morning. I'm glad I'm here too, and I'm happy you guys are here. I'm thrilled with my audience. Hey there, Keith. I'm doing fine. How are you? I think Odie is probably still sleeping out on the couch. He likes to sleep most of his day. All right, yes, Uncle Al says to check out his food and cooking playlist. Fireplug, how you doing? Uncle Al suggests to survive 24 hours on 5 gallons of water. That sounds easy, but that's not easy. I imagine that if you were to make sure that from midnight to midnight, you did not use any water that didn't come out of a 5-gallon jug, you'd realize how much water you'd probably run out very quick, or start realizing how many tasks you weren't able to complete the way that you're used to. Eight IBC totes. Wow, living the dream. Are those which size ones are those? Are they the full size shoot, 100, are they 120 gallon ones or more? I forget. I haven't used one of those in forever. I had never really used one a lot. Currently, I think that my water storage is sitting at a couple hundred gallons. 4, 275, and 3. Wow, living the dream. You have some IBC totes. Just over 1,000 and about 15. Wow. So you probably got about 2,500 totes. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got a considerable amount of 5-gallon buckets with water in them. Yes, thank you, Morning Light. If anybody should care to, you are welcome to hit the thumbs up. I'm not too worried about it. YouTube's going to do what they're going to do with me, regardless of what thumbs up I get or whatever. I've long noticed a slowdown on my upward trend. If my trajectory had continued from where it was at a couple points, I would have a lot more subscribers than I do now. But it's a small concern to me. The more subscribers I get, the more it dilutes the base conversation that we have here. So I'd rather have 1 or 2 people find me here directly through comments from you guys, because it's relevant to them, than simply have a lot of the trolls come in. I have very few trolls. Very rarely does somebody, I get disagreed with plenty, but it's always in the spirit of the conversation. And I credit that to the fact that I don't have a lot of randoms coming in. Most of my growth has come organically from conversation, from you guys talking to other people or things like that, I assume, not click through. So I've never worried once about being throttled back or anything. I keep all of my original video files and my export files, so I can just drag and drop them to the next big platform. So anyways, that's beside the point. $10,000, wow. 10,000 gallons of water for about 400 residents in that town. That's crazy. That's how much some preppers have in just a storage tank, let alone a holding pond or something like that. Rain 11 days straight. Yep, I hear you, Bubba. You guys have water. It's been raining quite a bit here. Yeah, backwoods, definitely. But that's just crazy. That doesn't even seem like it would be enough to supply on a heavy day 400 household. I mean, 400 people. That's many fewer households than 400. But um, I mean, if you've got farmers irrigating and they're not going off of their own irrigation or something like that, I mean, if everybody turns on their faucets and their lawns at the same time, it seems like that reserve would empty out pretty dang quick. Oh, MGTOW. Yeah, that brought out the that was my most trolled video. The pot video had that one person who has actually chimed in on my videos. She is a subscriber, or was already. She has done the same thing when I mentioned alcohol before. But that MGTOW video was the first one where I had an unreasonable conversation with somebody about something that I was trying to be reasonable about. And it was sort of funny to me because their problem was that I suggested that MGTOW was a movement. And many of them came out all at once with the intent to convince me, with the cause to convince me that it was not a movement. And I believe that MGTOW may not, but it seems that many of them are part of a movement to convince people that MGTOW is not a movement. A little bit of overlap. Wow. Well, backwoods, people are always hesitant to spend money that they can't think of a good reason to spend in those settings, you know. So they probably wonder why you want to increase, you know, spend money increasing water reserves when they would rather plant flowers on the entry sign to town or something like that. That kind of stuff costs tens of thousands of dollars, don't you know? They can't just send themselves out there to plant some flowers around the sign. They got to pay the landscaping company to spend 2 weeks doing it. Their buddy's landscaping company. Thanks, Uncle Al. I didn't really want to get into it. I wasn't going to share too many of my personal opinions on something that they clearly took very personally. But my personal opinion on MGTOW is you should probably already be there without needing somebody else's philosophy. I think that if you are organically, like you said, old school, you just are sort of over women, that's one thing. But I don't think that you need to like get a hat for it or something like that. I think that most of the men back in the day, those old rough and tumble lumberjacks that we know everybody was back in the early American days, probably would have disdained young men of today for needing a acronym for what they saw as just being your own man. But I'm not one of those old rough tumble lumberjack America, so I didn't say that. Backwoods. Yeah, just sit back and observe like a mall cop. Yeah, it's, you know, it's crazy. I don't know enough to speak one way or the other about where climate change is coming from, but I believe the climates are changing. Where I'm living, it is not the same weather as you would expect it to be from when I grew up, visiting here every year. So whatever the reason, I don't think many of us are probably going to know the reason for most of our lifetime why things are going on the way they are. But I believe the climate is changing. And that alone, the fact that you can point to somebody and say, do we get as much snow as we used to? Does it get hotter than it used to? Has anything been the same for 5 years as it used to be consistently? That's enough that it should get people going, all right, we live in changing times. Whether or not that gets them to be prepping or listening to preppers like, oh my gosh, you were right. I think people in the mainstream have, I mean, they definitely have acclimated to a new norm. And I think it's about time that they recognize that everybody's just gotten used to the fact that the world is different than it used to be in a way that should be, if not alarming, at least food for thought. Well, Bubba, at least you have the tanks. I mean, I would rather have the extra 3,000 gallons just in case the well does dry up again. You never know. Yes, Backwoods. The climate has always changed. And that's most of my concern. We're ants on the face of a rock. Whatever is going on, whether it's the smoke we're putting in the air or a grand solar minimum, or the earth is actually a living, breathing mother that's about to wipe us off because she's upset with us, I don't really care. My concern is there's stuff going on and we're small insects on the face of this thing. And yes, lots of things can happen that wipe us off the face of it. So, back when I burnt out a few, that's why I don't get into the why is the climate changing of everything. Why do these things happen? Oh, I probably said too many keywords, Backwoods. Get into that stuff. Anyways, what is everybody here working on? Is that a text message? Nope. Oh, got pinged by the AI. I'm starting to think that might be more of a thing. More minutes, because just a nice little chat. It's been 1 year since I uploaded my first video. I'm extremely excited about this and how it's all going. Having you guys here. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's not just me stroking your guys' ego, I think, or things that I've learned in the past, but the main reason that I make these videos as much as I do is because I have people out there who leave me that they want feedback to you, and I really appreciate that. The information that I get from you guys is worth more than what I put into it. I learn more from you guys than increasing my focus. Just writing some text that seems like we're lagging out. They may not have heard. Focus on that here.